Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right, so this is all just breaking this morning, coming straight to us from the president, from his Twitter account. We don't have a whole lot of details here, but just on the surface, if this ends up being true, if this was the case, that the Trump Tower was wiretapped by, at that time, the sitting president, President Obama, how big of a deal would that be?
Oh, this is huge. I mean, this is Soviet, dare I say, Soviet-level wrongdoing. Look, President Obama has moved up to his Potemkin village and moved in Valerie Jarrett. We have to understand here, it's very likely that he did authorize this. And according to, on the drive-in just now, you guys called me a little bit late. While I was talking to folks on the drive-in. This goes back to July of last year when rumors started on the dark net that even though the Obama administration was getting pushback from the internal mechanisms of the administration, like the FISA court, and by the way, there's going to be a paper trail at NSA on this. And let me say, John Brennan's probably involved in this. You have to have kind of three people inside doing this. And I think what's happened here is the paper trail that President Trump is referring to has finally showed up. So let me be very clear. The FISA court thing that Brett Baird just talked about, that's one piece of evidence. I'm sure there's others out there. So what this indicates is that this is really the Obama administration was taking on the form using their version of the FSB, the KGB, to go and target a candidate. Let me be clear on this for your audience. Simply because you don't like someone does not give you the right as a sitting president to do something like this.
And when you, as a sitting president, as you know, you endorsed the opposing candidate in Hillary Clinton, you have a dog in the fight. I want to put another piece of evidence on the table, since the New York Times has been leading some of the coverage on all of this. I was just sent an article from January 19th, where the New York Times, right before the inaugural, was talking about the investigations into the Russia connections with Donald Trump, and there was a line tucked in there, quote, one official said intelligence reports based on some of the wiretapped communications, wiretapped communications had been provided to the White House. Again, Tony, January 19th, the White House then was Barack Obama. So is this the source of some of these leaks? There have been massive leaks coming out of the FBI, maybe the CIA, alleging all of these different things. Did it come from those wiretaps?
This is the Trump Tower, to the best of the Obama administration's ability, was wired for sound. And yes, there was reasons why Mr. Trump did not want to give up his own personal security, because he knew that people, close to him may very well become collectors of this sort of thing. Look, this is completely insidious. This is an order of magnitude worse than Watergate, where you've actually used the mechanisms of state, the power of a state, to go after a candidate for presidency. And by the way, they presumed that he was going to lose, so it wasn't even about him winning or losing. This was about trying to gain advantage for his side, in this case, Ms. Clinton. And again, let me be clear on this. This is, while the Democrats keep talking about the Russians, this is Soviet behavior. This is the very thing the Soviet Union would have engaged in back during the Cold War.
What would have been the cover, the official cover for this surveillance, though? Because they wouldn't come out and say, okay, let's just surveil the opposite candidate. They'd say, okay, we've got evidence that we need to surveil. What are they surveilling on?
They're surveilling on, in this case, probably quote-unquote international contacts which relate to business transactions. Again, projection. We know for a fact the Clinton Foundation was indeed taking foreign money. A lot of people are recommending that you investigate that. They refused, but instead here they focused all their energy on going after Trump over the quote-unquote international connections. And let me be clear on this. If there was anything to any of that, by now it would have been leaked, because you're referring back to what you said on the 19 January article. Everything is taped, and there's going to be tapes of all this stuff too, and the Trump administration is going to find them.
So now the question is, how can they prove it? How can the president prove this? I mean, he's put this out there now. The world has heard what the president is telling us. He's got to back that up, like I said.
Well, but once you got to walk the fine line. If evidence is destroyed,
that's probably what we're going to find. Some of it, but the other thing is you can't give up sensitive sources and methods. Some of this was used in ways, and look, I can't go into how we do things, but I'm telling you, there's very sophisticated collection things that the president is now read in on. He's probably asking some questions like, hey, now that I know this exists, could this have been used against me?
So
and I think that's where it's all going.
Precisely. Is it going to be declassification of some aspect of it? Will it be, I mean, what's the best route potentially?
I think potentially you've got to say this is what happened on these dates and leave out the technology specifically, but then go and bring in those accountable. And dare I say, there's probably going to be some whistleblowers coming in to talk about this. This is serious. This is as serious as it gets.
Yeah, but just to clarify, you think that there is enough evidence that has been given to the president for him to make this claim, to make this statement. That's not just coming from nowhere.
Yeah, I don't doubt for a minute that Mr. Trump has got sufficient, I would say, critical mass of evidence saying there's something really wrong here. And again, as a president, you start learning little by little about collection capabilities. You have to get right into them. And so naturally, as you start learning about stuff, you start questioning how could this have been used against me in some form? And then you start asking harder questions. So I do believe this is one of the tripwires that I've been talking about in the network for the past month. These people have been trying to find ways to get intelligence on the president and his team for purposes of trying to discredit him. And I think this is what we're seeing here.
So we've got to wrap up. But for folks waking up right now, I mean, is this a game-changer moment if what the president has is revealed?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, we're talking about the potential of indictments of a former sitting president and his staff. And that's
a lot more about what's going on. He says, terrible, just found out that Obama had my wires tapped in Trump Tower just before the victory. Nothing found. This is McCarthyism. Is it illegal for the sitting president to be wiretapping a race for president prior to an election turned down by court earlier? It's a new low.
And he also tweeted, I'd bet a good lawyer could make a great case out of the fact that President Obama was tapping my phones in October just prior to the election. So we're following this like you are in real time. These tweets just came out in the last 10 or 15 minutes.
What is he referring to specifically? Has he been briefed on something specific the public doesn't know about yet? Or there have been reports suggesting that there are intercepts of some of the conversations of General Flynn and others on the whole Russia deal. And so is he suggesting that the intercepts with information of the conversation, did that come from a wiretap approved by the Obama administration to, though specifically, he says, tap into the phones at Trump Tower?
At Trump Tower,
which obviously a sitting president going after essentially the incoming president would jack up this whole story the current president has been talking about how the Obama administration was setting traps, these leaks that we see now. This would jack it up that there was a wiretap before the election. Remarkable.
This could totally change this entire conversation. I mean, as he said in that tweet, McCarthyism. I mean, this really jacks it up.
Well, it's a witch hunt. If you do believe that the previous administration is doing anything they can to discredit you, to include declassifying intelligence before the election so that if Trump wins, the information's out there to build a case that there's some sort of collusion with Russia, why would it not then lead you to believe maybe they did take some steps, some extraordinary steps while still in office to monitor whether those conversations were going on? And as we've seen before, the president has been pretty astute about getting ahead of the news cycle with more information because he knows it. He sees it. He's got intelligence briefings. He looks at it. We don't. He tweets it. We speculate about it. And then more information comes out to affirm it.
And even before the president raised this to a whole new level this morning, you had Rush Limbaugh yesterday talking about this very thing, that basically saying the Obama administration on the way out the door was trying to spring a trap. Watch.
A silent coup that was put in place by Obama and the Democrats during the transition and before, even after the election. What is happening here is a full-fledged effort here to deny Trump the actual control of the government. By leaving so many Obama career people appointed, by going so slowly on confirming Trump's cabinet appointees. I'm telling you, if you want to find out who's really working together to sabotage the United States, you find the link between Barack Obama, Vladimir Putin, and the Russian government. That's the story.
You know, the conservative talkers have been all over this. Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin calling it a secret coup. You put it together, what's being done against this president. It's discredited. Now we're finding out it was formalized even before.
You are on President Trump.
I am following his Twitter feed right now. Just 2 minutes ago, we can barely keep up right now. Just 2 minutes ago, the president tweeted, "How low has President Obama gone to tap my phones during the very sacred election process? This is Nixon Watergate. Bad or sick guy." I mean, that is a pretty apropos comparison, if that is what has used it.
Just to be clear, like we are getting this news directly from the president, from his Twitter account. When he got these reports and how this all came about, we don't have any of those details or how significant all of this is. But I can't imagine he would tweet something like this, Ed, unless he had some real concrete evidence to back that up.
At least suggesting it. And I think it's interesting that he's turning that Watergate analogy, did you notice, around on the Democrats? Because remember, about 2 weeks ago, it was, this administration is like, this is worse than Watergate, the DNC said, in terms of the Russia thing. And I had a viewer tweet me last hour saying, what were you talking about when you said there's no there? I'm saying, is there evidence? Because that's the point. And Pete has been making this, and Abby has as well, which is, look, you can have meetings with the Russian ambassador. That does not prove there was criminal action, doesn't prove there was a problem, an ethical issue. The key is the content. Is there any evidence there? Is there anything behind it? Just talking to somebody, obviously Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer have now found out